All right, welcome everyone to the December 16th meeting of the Berkeley School Board. Ms. Chires, do you want to give out the information?
Sure. Good evening. Este mensaje será repetido en español enseguida. I would like to provide a brief overview of tonight's meeting. After a few procedural items, the board will hear 30 minutes of public comment. At the end of the meeting, there will be another and final opportunity for additional public comments. So if you do not get to speak during the first call, we encourage you to stay to the end. To request to participate in public comment, click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen and select the raise your hand button. When called upon, you will be unmuted. To comment by phone, you will be prompted to raise your hand by pressing *9 to request to speak. Once again, you will be unmuted. The board president will call our students first. So if you are a student who wishes to speak tonight, please add student at the end of your name. Once again, if there are too many people who want to make public comment, not everyone who raises their hand will get to speak during the first call, but we do encourage you to stay. The board president will determine to set tonight's speaking time at 2 or 3 minutes per speaker, and on an individual basis also has the discretion to allow for extra time for those who need translation or have other speech needs. When your time has elapsed, you will see a sign being held up indicating that you have 15 seconds left. And if you are still speaking, please finish your sentence, but try to not speak beyond your time. Voy a proporcionar un breve resumen detallando el orden de esta reunión. Después de unos procedimientos preliminares, un periodo de media hora será dedicado a comentarios públicos. Al final de la junta, que usualmente puede ser cerca de las 10, habrá una segunda y última oportunidad para quienes desean participar. Para comentar por videoconferencia, haga clic en el botón participantes en la parte de abajo de la pantalla y seleccione el botón levantar la mano. Al ser llamada, le permitirán hablar 2 o 3 minutos dependiendo la dirección de la presidenta. Después de este tiempo asignado, lo silenciarán y para hablar por teléfono, igualmente se le pedirá que levante la mano presionando *9. Usualmente, el presidente llamará a los estudiantes primero, estudiantes que desean hablar, favor de indicar que son estudiantes al escribir estudiante después de su nombre. Cuando haya transcurrido su tiempo, escuchará su tiempo se ha acabado. Si todavía está hablando cuando se acaba el tiempo, por favor de terminar su oración, pero trate de no sobrepasar su tiempo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Chires. Okay. So this is an exciting meeting because we have 2 new board members that we're going to swear in tonight. Before we do that, though, can you please call the roll, Ms. Chires?
Yes. Director Khadija Brown.
Present.
Director Ty Alper.
Present.
Director Julie Sinai.
Here.
Director Laura Babbitt.
Here.
Director Anna Vasudev.
Presente.
Director Miles Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Now we need to approve tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda.
It's okay, you're new.
Not at all.
Motion by Director Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Miller. Can you take the roll, Ms. Chires?
Director Sinai. Director Alper.
Yes.
Director Babbitt.
Yes.
Director Vasudev.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
And Director Brown.
Yes.
Okay, we have our agenda, and so the first item on our agenda is the swearing in of our new board members, and we're gonna swear in our 2 new board members one at a time. First, we're gonna have our city clerk and welcome Clerk Mark Newmaidville is here to swear in Director Babbitt. So we'll do that first, and then our former board member Beatrice Leva Cutler is joining as we speak, and she will swear in Director Vasudev. So Mr. Newmainville, I'll turn it over to you and Director Babbitt.
Great, thank you, Director Alper. Director Babbitt, congratulations on your election, and now I'll administer the oath of office. Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Laura Babbitt,
I, Laura Babbitt,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, Director Babbitt. Director Babbitt, I'm going to ask if you don't mind. I'd like to offer you and Director Vasudev a chance to say a few words. Oh, no, wait. Director Leva-Cutler is here. I was going to ask you to, let me just see if she's here. And then we can stick to our plan. Let's just give her a minute. The applause in real life would just be dying down by now anyway. Former Director Leva-Cutler, are you with us? Connecting to audio.
Sounds like her audio is still trying to connect.
Why don't I give you the opportunity, Director Babbitt, to say a few words, and then we'll swear in Director Vasudev.
Okay, great. I just wanted to tell everyone that I am so honored that Berkeley has supported me with their votes, and I'm ready to get to work for our children. So thank you so much to the entire city of Berkeley. I am so appreciative that the community has entrusted that I will represent your interests and your most precious resource, our children. I want to thank my family, who has always been my biggest support, from my youngest daughter to my eldest aunt. Everybody has played a key role providing the support and encouragement needed to help me through this journey as a parent advocate and now as a board advocate. I love you all dearly and am forever blessed to have been guided and loved by all of you. I want to thank so many of my extended family members who, for me, include so many of my church family members, my PCAD family, ADAC family, BPAG family, United Parents family, PAC family, BCEP P&O family, DLAC family, Longfellow Advocacy Group family, and my local schools, Rosa Parks, Longfellow, and Berkeley High School, with a huge shout out to my Berkeley High School African American Studies Department family. Next, I want to thank the members of the Berkeley Federation of Teachers who were an amazing support by phone banking, sending e-blasts, getting yard signs out, and encouraging me during the process. Following their support came each club and more union endorsements. And with each one, I felt the power of community support, for which I am forever grateful. Finally, I'm so thankful to my campaign volunteers, all of the people who publicly and financially endorse me. You are amazing. To my treasurer, Mimi Pulich, who has been encouraging me to run for years. To the people who walked door to door dropping literature, most of which who are also my dear friends who, no matter how hard we tried to have a girls' night out, we ended up talking about school stuff and our next advocacy movements. Thank you. To my best friend and godson, thank you. To those who hosted Zoom parties, led parent and family talks, wrote op-eds, flooded social media platforms, and to all who worked on my campaign kickoff event, the Black Lives Matter Car Caravan for Change. It was one of the most memorable campaign events ever. So everyone, we did it, and thank you so much. And now the hard part. It's time to get to work delivering together, providing outcome-oriented budgeting, outdoor classrooms and green schoolyards, special education reform, addressing anti-Blackness or an implicit bias, implementing accountability structures to ensure our programs and services are delivered through the lens of equity for all students. In addition, in response to the Jacob Blake shooting in front of our children, and for all of our students that are experiencing trauma and mental distress in light of this COVID-19 exposure, ensuring that BUSD embraces trauma-informed care and instructions for our students will be key to a welcoming school environment and creating the best educational outcomes for all. As I transition from a volunteer, parent organizer, advocate, and school site district committee member to a school board director, I'm looking forward to continuing the partnerships that I've built over the years, expanding those partnerships to include our city partners, our new BUSD parents, staff, faculty, administrators, and of course, our students. I continue to be impressed with all BUSD students as they demonstrate the spirit we model for them as a school community. S, strength, P, perseverance, I, imagination, R, responsibility, I, integrity, and T, talent. Student needs will always be my first priority, and making sure that if the challenge seems great, that I also tap into that spirit and find the way for us to overcome together. This is a very critical time for our nation and our children's future. I am truly honored that Berkeley saw fit to entrust me as their elected representative to help navigate this journey. While this may seem like a cliche at this moment when our country has been so divided, I still believe that as a team, together each achieves more, and yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Babbitt, and congratulations again. Where'd Director Sinai go? Did we lose her? I'm sure she'll be back. Thank you for those remarks. And thank you, Mr. Numainville, who has left us. And now I'm going to turn it over to our former colleague, Director Leva Cutler. Are you here, Director Leva Cutler? Can we unmute her? Ms. Chires, Ms. Lopez?
I'm trying to unmute her. It's just not working.
I'm not able to unmute her either.
Director Leva Cutler, do we know if she can hear us?
Text her.
Bear with us, everybody. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, am I
Oh.
here?
There, now you're with us.
Okay, so let me go to the page.
Okay, it's good to hear your voice. Director Leva Cutler is going to swear in Director Vasudev.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity. And here we go. Yo, Ana Vasudeo, juro y afirmo
Yo, Ana Vasudev, afirmo
de manera solemne que respaldaré y defenderé la Constitución de los Estados Unidos de América
que respaldaré y defenderé la Constitución de los Estados Unidos de América
y la Constitución del Estado de California
y la Constitución del Estado de California
contra todos los enemigos
contra todos los enemigos
extranjeros y nacionales que tendrá la verdadera fe
que tendré verdadera fe
y
lealtad
a la Constitución de los Estados Unidos de América
a la Constitución de los Estados Unidos de América
y la Constitución del Estado de California,
y a la Constitución del Estado de California,
que asumo esta obligación libremente, sin ninguna reserva mental o propósito de evasión, y que cumpliré bien y fielmente los deberes con los que estoy a punto de comprometerme. Felicidades.
Gracias, directora Leva Cutler.
Congratulations. Thank you, Director Leva Cutler. Congratulations, Director Vasudev. And now I'll turn it over to you to say a few words.
Well, thank you, President Albert, for creating this space to thank everyone tonight. I'll keep my remarks brief, but in short, I'm excited by the opportunity to serve our wonderful Berkeley schools. I feel very honored and humbled that Berkeley voters have trusted me to help guide our schools during this challenging time. Thank you so much for helping me get here tonight. Our current school board leads with a strong equity lens, and I'm looking forward to serving with all of my board colleagues, our superintendent, and dedicated BUSD staff. I would also like to thank all our labor unions, elected officials, and former school board directors who supported and mentored me along the way. I'd like to give a special thank you to 3 Berkeley High and Youth in Government alums, Similia Rogers, Daniel Bowie, and Cole Huster, who worked tirelessly to get me elected. In order to be a successful school board director, it's important to always put students' needs first. I'm proud to have run a youth-powered campaign and cannot wait to serve our students. To our students who are here tonight, you give me the energy and the inspiration to fight for an education system that works for all of us. I'd like to thank my family, my mother Melba Kahina, my proud Cragmont Dragons, Kavi and Sebastian Vasudev, and my husband Jotindra for encouraging me to put my love for our schools into action and to run for office. I'd like to thank my sister Stephanie Kahina, who is my campaign manager and who also serves as the Bay Area Vice President for the Chicano Latino Caucus of the California Democratic Party. Stephanie, I could not be more proud of the grassroots campaign that we ran together. And to all the families and students listening tonight, please know that I look forward to actively engaging with you and elevating your concerns as we tackle these very difficult, challenging times. My virtual door is always open, and I'll always be here to listen to what your family is going through. Para nuestras familias latinas o hispanohablantes, aquí estoy para servirle y para poder apoyar a nuestros estudiantes, porque yo creo firmemente que juntos todos vamos a salir adelante. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again, Director Vasudev. It's wonderful to have our 2 new board members, and we're going to move right along to the part of the agenda. This is our annual organizational meeting where we elect new officers and approve the meeting calendar for the 2021 school year and committee and school assignments. Then we'll have a report from closed session, and then we'll begin the public comment testimony tonight. And tonight we have only one item that we'll be discussing, which is the plans for BUSD's phased approach to school reopening. So next on the agenda is our annual organizational requirements. Director Sinai, do you have a motion for the appointment of officers?
I do. I am honored and pleased to move the Ty Alper as our board president for this year and Director Khadijah Brown as our vice president. I am thrilled and honored to have these 2 leading us through the next calendar year. Is there a second?
Is there a second?
I second.
Second. I beat her. I'll second.
We might have to go to the tape to look at that one. Okay, we'll give it to you, Director Babbitt. All right, there's a motion by Director Sinai and a second by Director Babbitt. Ms. Chires, can you call the roll?
Yes. Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Brown,
Absolutely.
Director Alper,
Yes.
Director Vasudev,
Yes.
and Director Babbitt,
Yes.
Director Sinai.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I'm now going to make a motion I'm going to move that Director Sinai be appointed the clerk for the 2021 year. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Second by Director Brown. Ms. Chires, can you call the roll?
Director Sinai,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Vasudev,
Yes.
Director Babbitt,
Yes.
Vice President Brown,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. Great. Thank you. And thank you for serving in that role, Director Sinai. Now, can I have a motion to approve the regular board meeting calendar for 2021?
I'll move it.
Motion by Director Sinai. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Miller. Ms. Chires?
Director Vasudev, Director Babbitt,
Yes.
Director Sinai,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Vice President Brown, President Alper.
Yes. Okay, we have our meeting calendar. I like that Vice President Brown.
I do too.
That's the ring of it. There's a nice ring to it. Okay. Is there a motion to approve committee and school assignments?
I'll move to approve the committee and school assignments.
Motion by Director Brown. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Director Babbitt. Ms. Chiras?
Director Sinai,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Babbitt,
Yes.
Director Vasudev,
Yes.
Vice President Brown,
Yes.
President Alper.
Yes. Great. Thank you all for doing that so efficiently. Now I'm very excited to turn it over to Vice President Brown for her first official act as Vice President, which is to report out from our closed session today.
Thank you so much, President Alper. Reporting out from closed session, item 3.1.1, there was a motion by Director Sinai, seconded by Director Vasudev, to approve the recommendation from staff. Director Alper voted in favor, Director Babbitt abstained, and the motion passed 3-0-1 with Director Brown absent. For item 3.2.1, the board heard an update and gave direction. And for item 3.2.2, the board also heard an update and gave a direction. And this is the.
All right, thank you, Vice President Brown. Next, we have public comment. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand, your little blue hand. And I'm going to give people a minute to raise their hands. Once we start public comment, if you raise your hand after we start public comment, then you'll be able to give public comment at the end of the meeting. But so that we can keep to our time, we're going to limit public comment to people who raise their hand right now. So if you want to raise your hand, raise it now. Looks like we have 15 people. So Vice President Brown, well, let's give everybody a minute and a half. And do you have signs?
Yes, I have signs.
Okay, Vice President Brown is going to hold up a sign when you have 15 seconds left, and then when your time's up. And I'm going to ask that you finish your sentence when your time is up, so that we make sure we can hear from everybody who has raised their hand. And again, if you don't get to talk in this public comment, there'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting. The last person that I see on the list to speak will be Laura R. So anybody who signs up after Laura R can speak at the end of the meeting. Okay. First, we have Regina Chigola.
Hi, good evening. My name is Regina Chagoya. I teach third grade at Rosa Parks Elementary. I'm also a BFT organizer and officer. A lot of public comments in recent weeks have been from parents who are eager to send their children back to in-person school. But teachers also hear from more diverse opinions from the parents and their classrooms, including from families who are reluctant to return and value the routines and stability that they have found in distance learning. The district's most recent survey shows that well over half of elementary parents are not ready to send their children back to school. If we had twice as many teachers, this would be an easy problem to solve. But with the staff we have, meeting the very needs of thousands of elementary families remain a huge challenge. Our goal is to find a way to support the staff who want to voluntarily work in person and to make the job sustainable, while making the best use of the time and skills.
We lost you, Ms. Chagoya. I think you muted yourself, or someone muted you. Do we know what happened?
She must have left the meeting. I don't see her at all.
I still see her. I mean, I see her box. Okay, well, if she comes back, she can finish her comment. Now we'll go to Ms. Falarka, Yvette Falarka. You have a minute and a half, Ms. Falarka.
So I'm here representing the Equal Opportunity Now by Any Means Necessary Eon BAM caucus. And it's clear that Berkeley Unified should and needs to shut down the phase 1 programs at Malcolm X, Jefferson, and Rosa Parks elementary schools that return students back to school with adults and children from outside their immediate household for hours at a time every day. Opening schools was a pillar of Trump's economic policy. Playing Russian roulette with children's lives and their families shouldn't be a part of Berkeley Unified's or anyone else's. I've spoken to parents of EL and special education students at 2 of the schools whose children were recommended for the in-person phase 1 program. They were scared that if they didn't send their children, they or their child might get in trouble in some way. The fantasy that children don't get COVID, don't get sick from or die from COVID, or don't spread COVID was ridiculous from the onset. Der Spiegel just reported that not only India, but studies in Austria, Germany, Britain, and cities in the US showed that COVID-19 infects just as many children as it does teachers. And other surveys indicate that while young children may show no symptoms, they're really efficient at spreading the virus. Schools across Europe are closing down as a result. I asked Mr. Stevens and the school board if you will be able to live with yourself if and when we lose a child or a child's family member to COVID as a result of this irresponsible phase 1 program. It's time to close them down.
Thank you, Ms. Falarka. Now it's Old Timers Day at the school board meeting. We have former director Josh Daniels. Josh, where did he go? He was here a second ago. There he is.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Thank you, President Alper. I'm sure it was you who muted me accidentally.
It was.
I wanted to call in to congratulate Director Babbitt and Director Vasudeo. I'm so excited that you are serving the community of Berkeley, including my kid, who is an elementary school student. And I would just like to say to Vice President Brown that if President Alper gives you any problems, you just let me know and I will take care of it. I wish you all the best, and I'm just really excited to watch you work and to have you serve the students of Berkeley. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Daniels. Next, we have Jonas Lamattery Brownell.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations, board members Babbitt and Vasudev. Or I realize I might be mispronouncing your name. If I should say Vasudeo, I apologize.
You said it correctly.
Okay. So just before 7 p.m., we have had 5 official COVID-19 deaths so far today in Alameda County. Yesterday, we had 12. We know that these deaths fall very disproportionately upon our Latinx, Black, disabled, low income, and transgender and other targeted communities by our system and this disease. Right now, there are 2 zip codes in Berkeley that are among the top 10 worst off zip codes in the county. They're both in West Berkeley. The worst has, for the past 14 days, averaged 89 new cases per 100,000 population per day, which is over 10 times the level of purple. The beginning of purple is at 7 new cases per 100,000 population per day. It's over 10 that in West Berkeley. It's completely out of control, the spread. And we know that in California, contact tracers cannot keep up. We are nearly blind, the authorities are nearly blind to how the spread is happening in our state. And so under these conditions, I believe we need to close phase 1. It may be legal to keep it open, but is it right? Is it wise? Is it equitable? Is it just?
Thank you, Mr. Lamattery Brownell. Next we have Matt Weber.
Good evening and congratulations to the new board members. I wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak. I have a second grader at BAM, and we are experiencing, as many parents are, the firsthand implications of not being in school for our children, the social, emotional, and physical impact, as well as the learning loss, which of course is uneven across the population, and those hardest hit are indeed those that started furthest behind the average. I would note that it's really for public health officials to decide whether it's safe or not for other people to comment and make that decision. And I would note that there have been many other locations and studies that have taken place that have proven that it is very much more important for the overall population for students to be in school. I would also note that the mayor and many city council people have noted that opening schools is essential. Today, we're not ready to open, but I encourage the school board as well as the teachers to be ready to open as soon as we are available and open, able to open under the existing regulations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Ms. Chagoya. I think you got dropped off accidentally, so we'll let you finish your comments.
Thank you. Yeah, ironically, I was using my work computer. How fitting, my internet, as a teacher, my internet would go down. So yeah, I'm Regina Chagoya. I teach third grade at Rosa Parks Elementary. I'm a BFT organizer and officer. So a lot of public comments in recent weeks have been from parents who are eager to send their children back to school, back in person school. But teachers also hear from more diverse opinions from the parents in their classrooms, including from families who are reluctant to return and value the routines and stability that they have found in distance learning. The district's most recent survey shows that well over half of elementary parents are not ready to send their children back to school. If we had twice as many teachers, this would be an easy problem to solve, but with the staff we have, meeting the very needs of thousands of elementary families remains a huge challenge. Our goal is to find a way to support the staff who want to voluntarily work in person and make the job sustainable while making the best use of time and skills of those who want or need to remain in distance learning. We are working tirelessly to find a way to make this happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Alex Day and then Melissa Corrigan. Mr. Day. Mr. Day.
Hello, sorry everybody, I was just in the middle of bath time for my toddler. Thanks for making time for public comment today, and congratulations to board directors Basadeo and Babbitt for your first day. I think that now makes at least 4 out of 5 of y'all that I've phone banked for. Director Sinai, I'm sure I just can't remember if I have, but I'm sure I would have. So my name is Alex Day. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I teach ethnic studies and social living at Berkeley High School in the 9th grade. And I'm also a graduate of Berkeley High School, class of 2006. And I wanted to today, hopefully in my time, share 3 things with you: some successes and challenges of distance learning in my 9th grade class this year, the limits the physical spaces of the BHS campus and classrooms place on hybrid models that require social distancing, and then equity in education after the pandemic. So briefly, the successes: the Wednesday small groups, the one-on-one work we can do is really awesome. And then community check-ins at the beginning of class are doing an all right job of standing in for physical, social interaction. And then having only 50% of students per term is great for us. And students being at only having 3 classes per term is by and large really good for them. Some challenges are still, unstable internet. I'll be with students and they can't even have their camera on without it lagging on them. And cut me off if it's my time. But
yeah, it's your time, Mr. Day.
Okay, very good, very good.
Thank you.
I'll come back later for the rest of that.
All right, thanks so much. Melissa Corrigan, followed by Paula Phillips.
would like to just say that keeping phase 1 of the program open under its current early opening, and even though we're shutting down in many other parts of the state, is asking for a lot of trust. While education is supposed to be the highest priority, safety is a higher priority. At BUSD, my paycheck has had more egregious errors than I've ever experienced in my entire 30 years in the workforce, yet I'm told that they will do everything right. How can they fight for anything when teachers have been asking and fighting for tissues and pencils? The district is asking me to trust that they're going to handle the administration of keeping the school sites open and safe, even though the district provided Wi-Fi for my students of color and poor students who need it the most is not sufficient that they can log in regularly and participate fully. The district is asking that I trust them and every individual that works or has access to every single school site, despite the fact that 2 of the caregivers on site at the early opening sites did contract COVID-19 and expose students in their care. The students that did not ever expect to be exposed and the families that trusted them. The district is asking me to trust that the contact tracing measures that are in place with the county are sufficient when we already know that there are insufficient numbers of contact tracers in California and too many cases in California to be at all meaningful at this time.
Thank you, Ms.
This is more public health theater than substance. I ask that you stop using the funds to keep the school sites open and use them instead to provide adequate Wi-Fi for students.
Thank you, Ms.
that all
Corrigan.
students can fully participate.
Thank you. Next, we have Paula Phillips. And we're going to go through, Laura R. is going to be our last public speaker of this comment period, and anybody who raises their hand after her can speak at the end of the meeting. And again, if you could look at Vice President Brown will be holding up a sign with 15 seconds left and then a sign indicating that your time is up. Ms. Phillips. Ms. Phillips, you're muted.
Maria's not here. She has to serve.
There you are.
No.
Oh, okay.
Paula.
Yes, here I am. Okay. I just wanted to say, my name is Paula Phillips, former president of the Berkeley Council of Classified Employees. And I just want to say congratulations to Laura and Anna for your win with the board. I'm excited that in my time of being an employee of the Berkeley Unified School District, that we have 2 African-American females on the board during my time. These are exciting and uncharted times. And I know that Khadijah and Laura, you will do everything that you can, or I'm hoping you do everything that you can for our students, our Black and Brown students, to make changes to the way Berkeley educates our students. And Anna, I'm excited that you are representing all students of color as well. And I know together the 3 of you will make a lot of great changes in this district. And I'm going to commend you ahead of time. And I'm going to say, may God be with you all during these difficult times during the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Next, we have Mark Joseph Ramia, followed by Cynthia Allman.
My name is Mark Ramia. I work at Berkeley High School, and I'm an instructional assistant paraprofessional, and I work with behavioral intervention specialists. Regarding collaboration time with teachers, I was informed by our special ed program manager that collaboration time for instructional assistants and behavior intervention specialists is not in the teacher's contract. We work directly with students on a daily basis, yet we have no collaboration time set aside with teachers to sit down and confidentially discuss students' needs, IEPs, and latest developments. Concerning student IEPs, my recent request for a set of full IEPs for a class of students I work with was ignored, and instead my special ed supervisor reminded me about my job duties. Over the last several years, it's been difficult to get students' IEP at a glances and full IEPs from administration. Something was set up years ago, but it dwindled. Lastly, regarding the recent stipend, instructional assistants and behavioral intervention specialists were told that we would get a $200 stipend to cover costs of equipment and services in order to better serve students. During the remote distance learning, we didn't actually have $200 to cover expenses, but what we got was left over from the stipend as it was added to our classified salary paycheck, and deductions were taken out along with our covering the taxes on equipment and service items needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cynthia Allman, followed by Angela Reed.
Good evening. I'm Cynthia Allman, a longtime kindergarten teacher at Malcolm X and BFT treasurer. Some people in our community have been citing the idea that schools are safe and we should send the children back without delay. Popular articles in the media repeat the claim that schools are safe without deeply analyzing the data the claims are based on. Most schools and districts across the country aren't even required to report COVID cases. Most schools and districts aren't testing students to know if they're actually bringing COVID to schools or not. Children are often asymptomatic, so we can't know if they carry the virus without tests. It's simply not possible to say that students don't get or transmit the virus at schools without widespread testing of children that has yet to be done. It's also important to remember that many hundreds of adults are needed to make our schools run. Even if the children aren't likely to become seriously ill, the adults may be at higher risk. It's difficult to take care of the children without coming into contact with the other adults, which may be an even likelier path to infection. Regular testing of both staff and students is an essential prerequisite to reopening schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Allman. I realize also that it's possible that not everybody can see Ms. Brown, Vice President Brown, sorry, or the list of people with their hands up. So the people whose hands are up who will speak for this public comment period are Angela Reed, who's next, followed by Rodney Brown, and then Laura R. And if you have your hand up, and I didn't just say your name, then there'll be an opportunity at the end of the meeting. And we might need to figure out some kind of chime system for timing if people can't see Vice President Brown. But for now, Angela Reed, you're next.
Thank you. I'm Angela Reed, a third grade teacher at Ruth Actie Elementary and the BFT secretary. Some community members have offered to partner with teachers and the district to reopen schools. One huge way our partners could help is to advocate for the resources needed to make this possible. BUSD has already spent hundreds of thousands of dollars retrofitting facilities, but there are many unfunded needs remaining. We need more nurses. At this time, there are 2 for the entire district. We need more teachers so that we can teach both remote and in-person classes without shortchanging either set of students. We need more instructional assistants so that they can support students without having to burst cohort bubbles. We need to conduct both employee and student testing. Our Berkeley community has been extremely generous, but in the current crisis, districts all over the country have been left to fend for themselves, to not only figure out how to do what needs to be done, but how to pay for it. This is why so few urban public school districts are open in the Bay Area. To those who are urging us to reopen the schools, please advocate with state and federal leaders for the funding to help us do it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ms. Reed. Okay, next we have Rodney Brown.
I'd like to say aloha, everyone. This is Rodney Alamo Brown. I'd like to say congratulations to all the newly elected board members, and also a huge, huge congratulations to my daughter, Khadijah, for becoming the new vice president. We're the family and I, very, very extremely proud of all her accomplishments that she's been able to do at such a young age, not just being a board member, but being a school teacher and an advocate for the city of Berkeley at large. Khadijah comes from a large range of individuals who are very, very prominent within the sector of Northern California. Her grandfather was a Berkeley High School graduate in 1958, and I was born in Herrick Hospital in Berkeley, California. So we look for great things from her, and we look for great things from the board and all of you, President Alfer and clerks and I, and everyone else that's involved with the school board as well. And I truly enjoy watching it every week or whenever the school board is on, watching it from a virtual world. I'll be glad when we get back in person so I can also come and show up and be of support in that regard. Once again, thank you all. God bless you. Aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I feel like we should maybe give Mr. Brown 10 more minutes to speak about Vice President Brown if he wants, but maybe at another meeting. Okay.
Thanks, Daddy.
Our last speaker in this public comment period is Laura R.
Hi, everybody. This is Laura Rivas. Good evening to the board. First, I want to also congratulate our newly sworn in board members, Laura Babbitt and Ana Vasudeo. And I've had the pleasure of knowing these two incredible women and seeing their fiery advocacy and just dedication to the community. And I'm just so excited for all of us that you're there. As many of you know, I'm part of the OFI team, family engagement, and also parent to 2 children in BUSD, 1st and 5th graders. And I'm here as a parent today to echo the community's call for a revision of the EL master plan, which was last done in 2003. This is the plan that offers guidance to our district for how to support providing services and monitoring our English language learners. One very troubling piece of data that was shared recently with the parent committee is that 1 in 4 ELs in our district are also in special education. And I think this is really troubling because it's not that many students actually need the special education. I feel like it's part of the over-identification of students of color, a trend. And I also would like to really see a robust effort to bring visibility to the TWI program that is offered in kinder to 8th grade in our district. I don't see that parents are informed enough about it. And thank you, Ms. Director Brown. And the admissions process is coming up, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention that parents should know about the program being a K-8. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we had the wrong setting on this meeting so that people could only see the speaker, which is why nobody could see Vice President Brown. So apologies. She had really well done signs that you'll have to wait till next meeting to see. Next, we have union comments, and I believe we have a video, pre-recorded video from BFT Vice President Janine Waddell, who's the Vice President of the Berkeley Federation of Teachers. Ms. Chires, do you want to cue that up? The sound isn't on. When you shared your screen, did you click on the?
Good evening, board members and Dr. Stevens. I'm Janine Waddell, Vice President of the Berkeley Federation of Teachers. I've also been a teacher at Washington Elementary for almost 10 years. Congratulations to Ana Vasudev and Laura.
What happened to the sound?
On the status of our negotiations with BUSD on the topic of phase 2 hybrid reopening. We've met 5 times in the last 2 weeks with another session scheduled for tomorrow. Both sides have been working literally day and night to prepare for these sessions so that we can move forward productively. The centerpiece of the BFT proposal is that a return to in-person work should be voluntary. Just as families have varying concerns about how and when to return, so do educators. Just like the rest of the community, teachers have their own health issues, or they live with or care for people at high risk, or they have unmet childcare needs or other barriers to in-person work. A plan that forces all to return will not solve our problems. It will only create new ones, including greatly increased staffing challenges as teachers go on leave to care for their health and their families. Another key element to the BFT proposal is that there needs to be a robust and easily accessible COVID testing program for both staff and students. We appreciate recent improvements to the staff testing procedures. Tests are now available closer to work sites and the lines are shorter. Developing a testing program for students is also essential since so many children who develop COVID are asymptomatic. It will help minimize the amount of transmission in our school sites. We support the general hybrid model that district staff has proposed. The model retains the core of distance learning in the mornings and adds in-person options in the afternoon for those who choose them. Elementary teachers want to keep their classes together. Families appear to want the same thing, as shown in the results of the latest BUSD elementary parent survey. It has been amazing how strong relationships can develop in remote learning between teachers and students and among students themselves. Teachers also think that having the stability of ongoing distance learning sessions will maintain the momentum that classes have achieved so far and make it less disruptive if we are forced to return to fully remote learning in the event of another surge. But of course, it's not possible to keep all of the elements of distance learning while adding in-person time. Our proposal keeps online classes together for whole class sessions every day for every student. It keeps the half class sessions for students who aren't attending in person on any given day. But since live students will be in the classroom in the afternoon, teachers will not be able to work online. So our proposal shifts the afternoon small group sessions to teachers who remain 100% remote. Our members report that students are somewhat less engaged with the asynchronous or independent work. So our proposal reduces responsibility for that work for those teachers who will work in person. BFT expects that there will be many logistical challenges that cannot be foreseen or completely addressed in a written agreement before classes actually begin. Many will need to be solved on a site-by-site basis. To facilitate the type of problem solving that will be required, BFT proposes a more gradual reopening than the proposed by the district. With this gradual reopening, we see week 1 as TK, kindergarten and ECE classes opening, week 2 with grades 1 and 2 opening, week 3 with grades 3rd, 4th, and 5th opening, and week 4 having after school classes begin. We believe that this will allow us to work together at school sites to ensure that safety measures are working and to solve problems as they arise before the number of students on campus becomes so large that it is really difficult to adjust. We know that no plan will satisfy everyone. The pandemic has left us all with so many unmet needs, but we think our proposals will allow us to take a step towards returning to in-person learning for those who are ready, while maintaining the best parts of distance learning for the majority of our students and staff who choose to wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Waddell. Are there any other union representatives? If so, raise your hand and I'll call on you. I don't see any. So now we'll move to district committees. If there's any district committee members, I know that we have a representative from the BSEP Planning and Oversight Committee, Terry Pastica. Terry, you have 5 minutes. Where'd she go? There she is.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you. So my name is Terry Pastica. I'm here on behalf of the Planning and Oversight Committee, or the P&O. P&O is an oversight advisory body that makes recommendations to the school board on 2 special tax measures passed by Berkeley voters to support BUSD, BSEP and BERA. As you know, BSEP is the Berkeley Schools Excellence Program and was approved in 2016. Historically, it goes back to 1986 and was a response to school funding challenges after Prop 13. And BSEP on an annual basis generates more than $32 million a year for the district, with the majority of the funding going to supporting small class sizes and teaching. BERA is the recently passed measure focused on educator recruitment and retention, and was approved in 2020. And its focus is to recruit and retain teachers and staff and to provide funding for public educator salaries and address hard to staff positions. So the combination of BSEP and BERA budgets that the P&O reviews on a regular basis totals more than 20% of BUSD's overall budget. And every school in the district is represented on the P&O, and the P&O is comprised of parents, caregivers, and some educators. So I've served as the P&O chair for the last 3 years, and currently I'm an alternate parent representative from Berkeley High. And given the importance of the various budgets that the P&O reviews, the committee would like to be more proactive in providing routine snapshots of the conversations, questions, and discussions that are happening at the P&O on a general level. So when you, the board members, review the P&O's recommendations and take actions on items related to BSEP and BERA, you have some context in which to put those decisions in on an ongoing basis. So the intent here is for a member from the P&O to show up to your board meetings and use this time to provide you snapshots of what's going on. And tonight is the first night we're going to do this. So to hit the high points of last night's meeting, there were 3 things that we discussed. First, after a historical overview of BSEP funding and its importance to the district, we learned that the current measure will expire in 2024, and the P&O talked about issues related to when does the planning for the new measure need to start, what's the role of the P&O in developing the measure, what should we be thinking about, and how does BSEP fit into the larger funding school picture of state, federal, and other BUSD measures. So that's number 1. Number 2, we looked at the audits for 2019 for Measure A and E1, and we had a discussion about how are the smaller class sizes calculated for BSEP. Essentially, it's called the teacher template, and that in 2019, there was a positive fund balance for BSEP, and we asked for an updated budget projection from now to the end of the measure to put into context for the P&O how that 2019 fund balance is impacted in the remaining years of the measure. And then lastly, we looked at BERA budget issues related to stipends in support of special ed positions. And that discussion focused on how much of the BERA funds are spent on special ed hiring and retention. What are the other funding sources for special ed? What kind of teachers fall under the category of special ed, and what was the process used to assess a repurposing of the funds that we were being asked to vote on. So that's the start for now. We hope to see you after our next P&O meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to give this recap, and just a shout out that the next P&O meeting is Tuesday, January 12th at 6:30 and online. The meetings are open to the public and we invite anyone to attend. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Ms. Pastica. We really appreciate your service and the service of everyone on that critical committee. Okay, next, now we have, not seeing any more committee representatives having raised their hands. We'll turn to board members to make brief comments, and the superintendent as well. So is there anyone who would like to start with a brief comment, board comment? Director Miller, do you want to start us off?
Sure. I don't know much to say tonight. I want to save it for the discussion later about reopening schools, but I want to congratulate Laura and Anna. I followed both your campaigns as everything was going on, and if I were able to vote, I would have voted for you guys. But yeah, you guys are incredible, and I can't wait to see what you guys do. And yeah, I just want to put out to the families again, holiday season is coming up. be careful. We all miss each other, but let's not. We all want to move forward to other goals in the spring, whether you want your kid to go back to playing recreational sports or whether you have a community center you want to start visiting again. And remember, we can all take vital steps right now to stay safe in quarantine, to make sure we can do those activities later this spring, including possibly returning to school and in-person education. So yeah.
Thank you, Director Miller. Director Sinai.
Good evening. I too want to share my congratulations with Director Babbitt and Vasudev. I am thrilled to be able to serve with you both. I think you both have been amazing advocates in the community and bring a wealth of experience both as parents and as broader community members. So welcome, and it couldn't come on in a more interesting and exciting time. I also want to congratulate Vice President Brown. Wonderful title that you've got there. I'm excited to see your emerging leadership under the tutelage of President Alper, so that we can really see you step up to not to jump the gun too quickly, but to continue to see your ascent. And President Alper, it's wonderful to be under your leadership right now. It's a key time, and you've stepped in many ways over the last couple of years. So it's great to continue that. I want to thank Ms. Rivas for coming out to public comment and talking about the English language, English Learner Master Plan. It's been on our agenda for a long time. I'm looking forward to continuing to get some momentum going around it. And I'm actually hoping, to be able to participate in helping to define some of the data that we need to really look at how have our English learners progressed over the course of the last decade, really, with the two-way immersion program. And are we really serving our students in the best possible way? And what are the challenges that we need to overcome, and how might we look at the future? And understanding that trying to do the English Learner Master Plan at the time of COVID is also challenging. So coming up with a realistic timeline on where we can really do our due diligence and get good community participation. So thank you, Ms. Rivas, for bringing that up tonight and coming out. And then just lastly, kind of piggybacking on what Student Director Miller said, is we all need to be role models in staying safe and avoiding, multifamily gatherings or gatherings outside of our home. I think many people might have heard, and if you haven't, Alameda County is now triggered under the state stay-at-home order, which automatically goes for 3 weeks, which goes through January 7th, because our ICU beds are under 15% availability. And so the only way that we are going to get to not extend past January 7th is by not spiking over Christmas and the New Year's holidays. So thank you, Director Miller, for urging us all to continue to be safe. And it also impacts, our ability to really push our partners in getting as much robust testing going as we can in the community, and also for our staff, so that we can really monitor and track this, until the vaccine is in a more widespread availability, which really won't be until later spring or early summer. So thank you. And I'm excited to go into this next phase with y'all.
Thank you, Director Sinai. Director Vasudev?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone who came out to public comment tonight, particularly the educators that were giving us just a snapshot on how distance learning is working in their classroom. And I know the high school teacher that spoke will come and finish this public comment, but I do want to thank all the educators who took the time to come and to talk about how distance learning is going on right now in their classrooms. I also wanted to thank Ms. Rivas for coming out and speaking about the English language master plan. And I know that the community has been waiting for a long time, and I look forward to working with the community on this effort. And I'm really excited to work with our board. I've admired you guys as a parent leader, and I'm excited to be on our board. And I know that we'll do a lot together. This is a very challenging time for us to be serving, for any school board member to be serving. But I know that equity is always at the forefront of our work. And I'm excited to be a partner in serving our schools to the best of our abilities right now.
Thank you, Director Vasudev. Director Babbitt, do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you again, everyone. And thank you to all who sent their congratulations and their continued support. And thank you to my esteemed board colleagues. I've heard you guys say that so much to each other. I might not say it quite as often as you all have, but.
You don't think you will, but you'll be saying it every meeting.
That's what. But I do want to say happy holidays to everyone. As we embark upon however you choose to celebrate, I want to encourage everyone to look into Kwanzaa. If you've never celebrated Kwanzaa or you don't know about Kwanzaa, it is a celebration of culture and family and 7 principles that could really help to guide us in getting to our shared goals of equity and inclusion and true integration in Berkeley Unified Schools. And I'm not going to tell you the principles. I'm going to hope that you will all just Google them, find a quick video, do an activity with your child around those principles, because it literally does take years to start to build them in and to really keep yourself ingrained in those principles, which will take us so much further as a nation and especially as our local community. So thank you so much for this time, and I look forward to continuing to serve with all of you.
Thank you, Director Babbitt. Vice President Brown.
Thank you, President Albert. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for your comments, your public comments this evening, and also for staying, those of you who have stayed with your hands still raised to give comments for the second opportunity. I am delighted and excited about this evening's meeting, so much so that I'd forgotten to tell other people about the swearing in outside of my parents, because I was excited, super excited about Director Babbitt and Director Vasudev's night of joining our esteemed board. Director Babbitt, I'm so happy that you brought up the principle, or brought up Kwanzaa, because I'm excited about the principle of Ujima, collective work and responsibility. And I'm excited that that principle will guide us in our work as a board. And so President Alper and Director Sinai, I am excited to serve as officers with you all for this board. We started out together 2 years ago, and I'm excited to continue to partner with you in this work as we bring on our esteemed directors, Director Babbitt and Director Vasudev. And I know that all of the work that we will do in the next 2 years to come will have an incredible impact on our school community, and also serve as the driving force, hopefully for other schools around us as they take notes on our incredible leadership. So thank you for your comments again, everyone, tonight, and I look forward to continuing to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Brown. I want to thank my board colleagues for their faith in me and for electing me to serve as board president for 2021. As many of you have mentioned, this is a pretty daunting time to be in public education at any level. I want to read just a few sentences from the resolution that we passed last board meeting regarding vaccine priority for public school educators. We said this: a free and open K-12 public education system is integral to the functioning of our community. When our schools cannot open, children suffer, and many parents and guardians of children who cannot go to school, many of whom are essential workers, suffer as well. The inability to safely open schools has threatened the long-term educational outcomes for many students, especially our most vulnerable students, the mental health and physical health of many students, the lives and livelihoods of many families in our community, and the local and state economy. The full extent of the ripple effects of an inability to safely open schools are unknown, but undoubtedly significant and tragic. So we have quite a challenge on our hands to figure out how we can get children and staff back into schools safely, and critically, how we can best serve our students in the meantime before we're able to do that. I think anyone working in public education is by definition up for a challenge. And I know that goes for the classified staff, our teachers, our administrators, and it's true of my board colleagues and the superintendent as well. I'm really excited to work with this new team. Director Babbitt and I have known and worked with each other for years. I think we were two of the first ever members of the district's parent advisory committee, several years ago. And I've gotten to know Director Vasudev very well in the last year or so. Both of them bring to this board so much professional expertise and experience and a true commitment, demonstrated commitment to equity and excellence. This is the team I would choose any day of the week to work with our superintendent, our staff, our administrators, our teachers, our classified staff to meet the enormous challenge that's facing us right now. And I'm very confident that we can do it, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you all. And with that, I'll turn it over to our superintendent to say a few words.
Thank you very much, President Alper, and congratulations to you, Vice President Brown. And then I also want to extend my warm welcome to Director Babbitt and Director Vasudev on behalf of all of the staff. We're very eager to get to work with you. You were among the first folks that I got to meet as I was entering the Berkeley community about 19 months ago. I'm recalling a coffee together as one of you shared lots of insights about the district. I'm recalling a meeting up at Cragmont in another case. And so really glad that you're bringing your point of view, your activism, and your long experience with the district to the board. We need that now, and welcome to you. I'd like to just make a couple of announcements that relate to our senior staff. So first, I'm very happy to introduce to the Berkeley community a new administrator to the team. His name is Stephen Jimenez-Robb. Mr. Jimenez-Robb is joining us as the coordinator of the Title IX and District Compliance Office. We're pleased that he began his work last Monday and is coming after a long, many-decade career in Southern California, working with school communities on issues of legal compliance, training for staff, and education for students on critical issues related to harassment, discrimination, and equal rights for students. So welcome to you, Mr. Jimenez-Robb. We're very glad to have you on board. And then I must as well note, although with a bit of sadness, that on Friday of last week, a large number of folks, both present and past employees of the district, came together to celebrate the coming retirement of Jay Nitschke, who is our director of IT. Mr. Nitschke has been a long time and stalwart supporter of BUSD, both before his employment and during. We will miss his expertise, his good humor, his straight to the point perspective on the work that we have to do. And we're also very appreciative that he's staying on with us just a few more weeks to see us through a transition. But to you, Jay, congratulations, and please know that I personally am going to miss you and really appreciate your wisdom and your grace. And then finally, I just want to pass along my best wishes to Associate Superintendent Bajay Tiara, who's not with us this evening. Just please know that we're all thinking about you. Embedded in the board's agenda this evening is a consent item that includes a calendar of all of the coming committee meetings that relate to the building of the 21-22 budget. I know that it may be a bit buried for members of the public, but starting in January, we're going to begin conversations about constructing that budget, meeting in many public forums to solicit the point of view of our community, of our educators. And this ultimately will lead to critical decisions that will support the boards and the district's equity mission. So I do want to point out that calendar is included in tonight's board packet and hope that members of the public will take a look. And please choose to be involved. We value and solicit the input of our community and want you to take part. As well, when we look forward to the new year coming 2021, there are a number of critical lines of work that we're looking forward to completing and presenting to the board. They include, as a number of members of the board have already mentioned, the development of a revised EL master plan. We're excited about engaging in that work. And we're also looking forward to engaging the community in completing a board's summertime resolution to study the impact of the school resource officer program at Berkeley High School and at BTEC. That work is coming, and we're looking forward to engaging beginning in January. We're also looking forward to work with some partner organizations to develop an African American Community Advisory Council and to develop out an African American success framework for the district. So please look out for notice about opportunities to help us with that work. And then finally, I hope you'll be on the lookout for an expansion of opportunities to be involved in tutoring programs and enrichment programs after school. We're looking forward to having a number of spaces available for elementary and middle school students, and we'll make sure that the community is well notified about these additional enrichment events. And then last, a shout out. During tonight's meeting, there was a special convening, a celebration of the Emoja program over at Longfellow. They were celebrating Kwanzaa this evening, having to do it remotely, very unfortunately, but I just wanted to offer my best wishes to all of the families in the Emoja program at Longfellow. Thank you for your participation and for the participation of our instructors in that program. And then finally, to all of our Berkeley families, I want to wish you a very happy holidays. I hope that this is a moment of peace for you and your family, and that you're able to stay safe as we experience this surge in COVID-19. So with that, I turn it back to you, President Elper. Thanks very much.
Thank you. And I would just like to introduce, just so people know who's up here, we have the Assistant Superintendent, Samantha Tobias Espinoza, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources, and our Assistant Superintendent, Pauline Follansby, who runs our Business Services Department. And then Liz Chires is the Board and Superintendent's Executive Assistant. I think that's your title. Is that your title, Ms. Chires?
Close enough.
Okay, close enough. Well, I'll get it right next time. All right, now I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Motion by Director Miller. Is there a second?
I got distracted because everyone unmuted as soon as I started speaking.
I'll second.
Second by Vice President Brown. Ms. Chires, can you please call the roll?
Yes. Director Sinai.
Yes.
Student Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Vasudev.
Yes.
Director Babbitt.
Abstain.
Vice President Brown. Yes. And President Alper.
Yes. Okay, so we've passed the consent calendar. Now we'll move to what's on the agenda as an action item, but my understanding from talking to the superintendent is that most likely the superintendent will be asking the board for general direction, but there will not be an actual action item that we'll be voting on. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, President Elper.
Okay. I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you very much. If you'll permit me just a second, I'll share my screen and we'll start with the presentation. So this evening, we'll endeavor to provide for the board members of the public an update on the current status of our return to in-person learning. Before we jump in, I thought I'd offer just one remark on behalf of the staff. I know it can sometimes be the case as we present a lot of this information in its complexity, that the technical aspects of trying to get open may overshadow the emotional commitment that all of us as essential staff feel to reopening our schools. There's not a day that goes by that we're not responding to emails from families about children in need. We ourselves are feeling that need as family members, often as parents. And so as we go through tonight's presentation, I do want to convey both to the board and to members of the public that we feel a genuine sense of investment in the task of reopening and a commitment to doing so in a way that will protect the safety of all of our staff and students. So with that, let me jump in, review for you the terrain we're covered tonight, and then we'll get started. So we do want to provide an update on local COVID-19 health conditions. There has been many changes recently, and including one just about an hour before we began our public session tonight. We'll talk about the status of our BUSD preparations, review the sort of current thinking about hybrid learning, and that will include an update on bargaining with our labor partners, and then jump into a discussion with the board members. As always, we have been driven by a set of guiding values through the course of this pandemic. They include, in no particular order, a commitment to the health of our students, families, and staff, as well as the social and emotional well-being of our students as they experience sort of profound and prolonged isolation because of the pandemic. We've been committed in decisions we're making about the model for hybrid learning, about the model for distance learning, to providing equitable supports and a commitment to fair outcomes for all of our students. As well, we've been endeavoring to try and provide a quality education under very difficult circumstances, and to stay in constant communication both with our families and our staff as we to take on a series of very important decisions. Most notable about the community transmission rates is news that came only minutes before we opened up in public session. We learned that the stay-at-home order has now been applied to all of the county. It in fact sort of lays on top of a voluntary decision to issue a stay-at-home order. We know that the stay-at-home order, as it's been issued today, will last for 3 weeks, which means that the current conditions, current restrictions on our private lives, on our local economy, will continue to remain in place much as they have been since the voluntary adoption of this stay-at-home order. So we now know that this order will last for 3 weeks, that it is effective until January 7th of the coming school year. And it has been triggered by the sort of dangerous dipping below of a 15% capacity in all of our regional ICUs. So this is something to take seriously, as Director Miller noted in his comments. This really is the time for safety. It's the time for the time for the community's commitment to adhere to all of the various restrictions and guidance that we have been provided from our city health officer. We know as well, and with respect to the state's tiering system, that we are in the purple, that we passed back into the purple somewhat recently, and that there is a carve out or a set aside as it relates to the purple tier restrictions for schools. It continues to be our commitment to operate our cohort-based programs. These programs were designed with the strictest of standards in mind. They're serving a very limited number of students who were selected by their schools on the basis of need. And we continue to work with our partner organizations to be able to provide these opportunities. We will continue to monitor local health conditions. We will continue to commit to transparency with our community as we experience cases, and we are experiencing cases. But please know that our commitment to these programs at the elementary level and our commitment to high school programming as well remains steadfast. And we understand that this comes with some level of controversy, and yet the commitment to our students is something that we place first. If we turn our attention over to BUSD's COVID-19 confirmed case dashboard, this is a dashboard that we update on a daily basis as needed. This is a transparent look at all of the cases associated with staff at this point, or students at our school locations. We've noted in past board discussions that during the period between March and October of 2020, we had 2 cases across the district, both staff members. You can see in this case dashboard that we're now experiencing an uptick. That uptick began in November and has continued into the month of December. Most recently, in these opening 2 weeks of December, we've experienced 3 cases in a variety of our settings. We put forward this dashboard to our community so that we can provide a transparent look at the number of cases that we're experiencing here that are associated with our campuses. To date, we're not aware that any COVID transmission has taken place on our campuses. This really represents folks who are coming to campuses having contracted COVID-19 in some other location. So we will continue to keep updated this case dashboard, but want to make this public and point it out to the board that it is true. We have experienced an uptick just as the community around us has experienced this uptick. Also available for review, both by members of the board and public, are a number of key documents. These are available and have been for some time on our BUSD website. Over on the left is the cover page to our elementary school campus safety plan. We are hard at work on revising this campus safety plan so that it applies to middle and high schools as well, so please expect that very shortly. The plan essentially will be the same with very modest revisions. Also on our BUSD website, you will find a number of resources, including reopening dashboards now expanded to talk about middle schools and the high school level. And then as well as I just reviewed, the COVID-19 on-site case dashboard is available for families. In our last discussion just a week ago, we talked about the possible impact of the designation of the county and city in the purple tier on the permission to reopen schools. We shared this graphic, this sort of sliding ruler graphic that tries to illustrate the 4 to 5 week lag time between the turnaround in transmission and test positivity metrics and the permission to reopen schools. We now know that the the stay-at-home order is extended until January 7th. Many folks continue to anticipate that December will see a steady increase in both transmission and test positivity. And we can only guess, sort of at the point that we begin to see a turnaround in those metrics, about the eventual reopening date. I do think that it's definitive as of this evening that the board's targeted reopening date, approved back in October of that targeting reopening date of January 13th, will simply not be possible under these conditions. So we will communicate that to the community in a letter going out on Friday that we don't anticipate a January 13th reopening, and that we will keep our eyes very closely on these two key metrics and try to provide our best estimate about a possible reopening date as we move forward. I'd like to talk for a moment about the status of our preparations here in the district. I referred earlier in the presentation to the school reopening readiness dashboard. This is a look at many of the key lines of work that are duties of the district to complete in order to reopen schools. This has been a slow, sort of meticulous body of work that staff has been engaged in now for many months. You'll see as we review categories of lines of work that many, in fact, the vast majority of lines of work associated with facilities preparation, health practices, school campus logistics, the availability of trainings for staff at the point that we bring them back, and many of the aspects of student and family preparations are now completed. There are a few elements of this case dashboard that we've listed as ongoing, and I'll highlight them for you now and then offer a sort of view into one of them in particular. So listed as ongoing continue to be the process of offering an accommodation for employees who may be at higher risk of complications due to COVID-19. That is both a legal and ethical commitment that the district has made to all of our employees to engage personally with each employee who feels that they may be at higher risk or whose home situation is complicated. And so we have many dozens of our employees who have now engaged with our Human Resources Department in this process so that we can make individual personal decisions that will be best for each of these employees. Also included and listed as ongoing are the development of hybrid learning models. We've been helpfully informed by the community through a series of surveys, some positive feedback, some critical feedback that we've received, and that helps us, the district team, continue to stay engaged productively with our labor partners as we work on the many complicated facets of a hybrid learning model. So we list this as ongoing, and in just a slide or two, I'll share with you more details about our ongoing bargaining. And then finally, we're working hard to try and create solutions around substitute staffing. Our early experiences with providing substitute staffing just in the cohort programs suggest that this is going to be very difficult indeed, and that there may be very few substitutes available for any form of in-person service as we begin to reopen. So this is something we must account for as we design our reopening plans. And then finally, we are planning over the winter break to consolidate all of our writing about our safety plans and submit that consolidated set of writing to the Alameda County Office of Education as our reopening plan. Please know that that is not going to be a hang-up. We're anticipating getting that in shortly after break, and don't see that there will be any delay for because of submitting our reopening plan to ACOE. COVID testing continues to be a very active line of work for BUSD staff. Just this last week, on Friday of last week, we completed a second round of employee COVID testing. We successfully tested 489 of our employees in 6 different test locations around the district, this time using our own staff and using a sort of self-devised appointment system. This proved to be a much smoother process, and so we will reinstitute the same testing process as soon as we return in January. And in fact, the first testing date for employees is scheduled for January 4th. We've also identified now a brand new full-time COVID-19 test coordinator. That person is just in the final stages of vetting and are anticipating bringing this added capacity on to take over the coordination of our employee testing program. And then we're very actively involved in exploring COVID-19 testing for students. We have now vetted possibilities with 5 different private testing vendors and looking through a complicated set of barriers that we have to overcome that includes issues like gaining parental consent for testing, mandatory testing, whether or not that's legal, a billing scheme so that companies can sort of recollect on the expenses of testing, managing reimbursements for uninsured and undocumented families, and then developing what will be a daunting set of testing logistics for over 10,000 students. We are working actively on this and consider it to be an important element of returning to school, although it is not part of any requirements established by the state or the county to reopen schools. And then to move to an update about hybrid learning, if we have a look at some of the key elements of the district's initial proposal to our labor partners, we have proposed at the pre-K level that we will reopen our early childhood education programs at 50% capacity for both full and half-day programs. For full-day programs, this would look like 5 days per week of reopened or pre-K programs. And at half-day programs would be 3 days per week running at 4 hours per day. There are a variety of important details that we've proposed to our labor partners as it relates to reopening pre-K, but that proposal is on the table and we're very grateful to our labor partners that we're now actively talking about reopening these programs. At the elementary level, we have sort of launched or sort of introduced a proposal to our labor partners for a hybrid model that includes maintaining intact the distance learning portion of students learning in the morning while extending the day and offering in-person instruction in the afternoon and the after-school program for families who would like in-person service on campuses. We're also working on ideas that would create additional in-person time for small groups within the hybrid learning schedule. We're building in all of these sort of scheduling proposals on agreements that are now in place with all 4 of our labor partners that relate to health and safety practices. We're proud of these agreements and think that they're very strong. We're also building from state and county standards from reopening schools. We feel that these are already strong and rigorous standards, and so propose to build on them as we contemplate timelines and staging. And then finally, as I just shared, we are committed to continuing to explore student COVID-19 testing. We think that it's important, but note that it is not a requirement imposed by the state or the county in order to reopen schools. And then really critically and disappointingly, it is currently not the case that there is testing or support at the state level for school districts to develop student testing programs. I should note that everything that I have just shared is not final. We understand that as we engage in good faith with our bargaining partners, that everything we're putting on the table is subject to the exchange of ideas and in fact is improved by the exchange of ideas. So we'll continue to offer reports to the public and the board as we go through this important process and look forward to continuing to stay in this dialogue. So with that, I will pause and I welcome the discussion by the board about all of this information. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dr. Stevens. So let me open it up to the board for comments or questions if you want to raise your hands. Director Miller.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. I definitely, it was great to see an update in how the stay-at-home order is now affecting us even more. I just wanted to make a comment about, because we talked about how like student testing isn't necessarily required, and I that mindset just troubles me a little, because I think yes, we can go back without student testing, but I think we should just keep in the mindset that um, while not everything is required, it should be pursued at a very heavy level. Because definitely, I got a bunch of messages from students this week about with COVID cases going up and wanting to return to school, but being unsure about the safety. So I think we just have to um, ensure safety for as many people as we can and make that a priority. So.
Please know that we agree. I can give you just some sense of the level of effort that we're applying to this. Just on Monday of this week, we met with a testing vendor who is working in mostly a private school setting to offer student testing. We were able to conduct a site visit also yesterday to go see what it looks like in a smaller setting. Today, we met with yet another, the fifth potential student testing vendor. So this is near daily effort that staff is expending to try and identify a practicable method for implementing a student testing program.
Thank you. Director Sinai.
I appreciate the presentation. Thank you, Dr. Stevens. I think the only thing I want to add is kind of echoing what I said at the last board meeting, is knowing that we're in this new level of shelter in place through January 7th. And even if it means we turn to red on January 7th, it's still another couple of weeks before we're allowed to open. But that shouldn't slow us down in our discussions and our negotiations with our labor partners. I really want to keep, and I really appreciate when Vice President Waddell said in her presentation, all of the many meetings that you both are having across the table to try to work out these issues. And as we enter into the holidays, knowing that, there's going to be a hiatus of, the winter break, but I hope the minute, January 4th hits, we get that dialogue back at the table so that when and if we are permitted, to open by the public health officers, we are resolved as much as we can be to move forward. So, I just, again, I know it's yeoman's effort or yo person's effort. And I appreciate all the hours of energy, and we just can't let up.
Thanks, Director Babbitt.
Thank you so much. I definitely agree. Part of my campaign platform was leadership for changing times, because our kids can't wait. And so we definitely can't let up, especially for our learners, our youngest learners who so desperately need to be back in a cohort situation at the very minimal. If you look at OUSD, I understand that they have 19 pods at 11 sites now. And I would appreciate it if you could just kind of inform the community more, because I've had three major issues arise for me around hybrid learning that the community has presented. One is, how can we have more cohorts or pods at our schools that are already opened? The other is, how we're going to address the transportation issue for that midday. What is our plan for that? And then if we can't overcome the transportation issues for some of our families who are unable to get their child to school, what is the possibility that we could flip so that remote learning happens in the afternoon instead of happening in the morning, so that parents can drop them off in the morning and then they can stay all day for those who desperately need it. And again, understanding that it would have to be a small cohort and to meet those who have the highest needs.
I appreciate all those questions. Thank you. I'll try to take them in order. So in terms of the cohort program that we're operating now, we began that program back on November 9th. All of those programs are right now operating with staff from partner organizations. There are 3 organizations, 2 longtime after school providers here in the district, and then 1 very reputable science sort of institution here in the Bay Area, who are providing staff for those programs. We did, prior to those programs, put out a call to all of our labor partners for volunteers. and found over the course of informational meetings and working with our labor partners to try and work out the details that we were not successful in recruiting volunteers for those cohort-based programs. So right now, it is permissible to continue to expand those programs. We are putting out guidance documents to our principals about how they themselves can recruit volunteers for cohort-based programs. And we hope that we'll be able to do that. We're soliciting more staff from partners, we're soliciting more volunteers. And yet our first round netted us these 3 school locations with about 7, I think, cohorts across those 3 school locations. In terms of the hybrid model proposed by the district, you're correct that this model has sort of a transition in the middle of the day. The beginning of the day would be hybrid learning from home for students, or sorry, distance learning from home from students, followed by a transition period midday, and then followed by in-person service for families who elect to come to campus during the afternoon and into the after-school program. We do have our fleet of buses available to us. We are subject to requirements for social distancing on those buses. And so we're currently thinking that our total capacity to provide transportation is about 15% of what it is under normal circumstances. That means that about 200, perhaps 250 students or so can be transported during midday and at the end of the day. And then we'll have to begin working with families to understand what additional need beyond our own buses we can fulfill through expanding that service. So that's what we have available now, and we're thinking about, we are sort of aware that this model may impose additional burdens beyond what we can solve through our own buses. And then in terms of flipping, these are all the kinds of discussions that we imagine taking place at the bargaining table. We have put forward a proposal that would create full day opportunities for some families. We recognize that some families need them. And so we just have to stay engaged with our labor partners to sort of balance all of these needs so that we can get to an agreement with our partners about distance learning, hybrid learning, and full day options as well.
Just a quick follow-up. So just in the spirit of Director Sinai saying, you know, how can we move forward and be prepared? Are we beginning to gather the information from our families so that we know what those transportation barriers may be for those who would be willing to opt into the in-person learning?
We have not started surveying yet. We've really been waiting for a signal that we have strong enough conceptual ground at the bargaining table that really warrants that kind of surveying. We may be there, and I think that we'll learn that very shortly, in which case I think you're right to be saying that we should be reaching out to collect that information. I've been a little hesitant, and this is on the basis of feedback from families, to survey when we're not quite certain that we have enough solidity in our thinking to survey families at that level of detail.
I think it's very important that we start gathering this information because we simply won't be able to overcome that transportation hurdle for our most vulnerable families if we don't look at that intensely. And then with regards to getting people to manage these cohorts or pods, what is the take on hazard pay, and has that been factored into our budget, our planning, or our offerings?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So at this point, we have been reluctant, I would say, about the idea of hazard pay. It's difficult to conceive that working with kids sort of warrants an additional sort of stipend. And given the sort of overall size of our staff, the number of students that we seek to serve, setting up a system for offering hazard pay may well exceed the resources that we have available. So at this point, there is no concept of offering hazard pay. And we've generally, as most districts, are generally trying to stay away from that idea.
Okay, I'm going to go to Director Vest.
Sorry, I just want to say we should bear out the analysis if it's at all possible to, at least get our most vulnerable students in a pod and a cohort. I mean, it might help get us there. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Babbitt. Director Vasudev.
Well, I just want to thank you, Superintendent Stevens, for that very detailed presentation, and also, just for reiterating our commitment to open as soon as it's, we're safely able to do so. I really like the addition of the dashboard for middle schoolers and high schoolers. I think it's great that that planning is moving forward, and that, that kind of forward thinking and advanced planning from our wonderful staff is continuing. So thank you and the staff for moving that work forward. I wanted to ask about, well, a number of things, but first about how outdoor education planning is happening now. If we can increase, right, if health conditions improve and we can increase the number of cohorts at the elementary school level, is there a plan in place for, I know there's a plan in place for the ones that have already opened and are approved to open, but is there a plan to expand outdoor education at the other sites? Is that planning ongoing? You know, what's this? So one question is, what's the status of that planning? The second question that I wanted to ask you is, you know, on the public health side, like, so if we can turn in our application, our intention to open, right, as a district by, I think you said, was it January 13th, the date that you said, Superintendent?
We would like to be able to get that reopening plan submitted to Alameda County over winter break.
Great. So if we're working to submit that soon, right? What is I'm sure the approval process is so different from how it was, you know, for the private schools when they submitted their plans. Have they told you what that looks like what the delay is in the approval process? What happens when you turn it in? Like, can you just kind of walk us through a little bit of how that might be different from, let's say, when we were in the orange or, you know, in another tier?
I can, yeah. Alameda County Office of Education right now is promising a 5-day turnaround on their review of all school reopening plans. They've been hitting that mark, and so that's why we feel if we submit it over winter break that there will be no delay caused by the review of that plan. We're also very confident that we have all of the work completed. It's simply a matter of collecting writing from a variety of sources, including our own agreements with our labor partners and our campus safety plan. But there's no prompt in the school reopening plan that we haven't responded to very thoroughly already.
That's great. And then my final comment will be that I completely agree with Director Babbitt's call for us to start, you know, kind of surveying the transportation needs of the students. We know that with limited capacity, you know, to prioritize students with special education needs makes a lot of sense to me, but also for students who are on free and reduced lunch, or if we expand programming for the middle schoolers and the high schoolers, those students still need to get around, and they need to get around affordably. And we're really lucky at the county that we were approved through the Student Transit Pass program to help coordinate free transit for 2 of our middle schools and for all of our high school students. So I want to make sure that that information, and I know Superintendent Stevens, that the district staff is working towards this, but that information continues to get out to the community so that students at Willard, at Longfellow, and at Berkeley High who need transportation, should we open up some kind of, you know, programming for them down the line, have it already in place.
Yes, I realize I neglected to answer your question about outdoor education. Let me go back there. So just at the last meeting, the board approved a preliminary budget for purchasing both the shade structures and a lot of the furnishings to create outdoor classrooms. That preliminary budget will provide about 4 to 5 outdoor learning spaces at each of our cohort locations right now. The idea in starting there is that we want to work with educators who are working with students live to be able to think about how these spaces figure into the day. Right now, our current thinking is that we'd like to have them available so that teachers can use them to maximize outdoor space. But it's not been our plan, nor do we really think it's feasible that we could move entire school campuses out and under tents. There's a number of barriers there that I don't think we can overcome, including filling our entire playgrounds with tents, thereby eliminating any space for running around and playing. And then the cost of this as well, each of these shade structures is about $6,000. And so it would be, I think, prohibitive to contemplate trying to build one structure per classroom in the district. So we're thinking that this is an augmentation of our strategies. It's yet another strategy, but not the sole way in which we're proposing to keep staff and students safe.
Director Stein, I do still have your, oh, sorry, Director Vasudev, did I cut you off?
No, that's fine.
Did you have your hands? No. Vice President Brown, any comments? No. I agree with Director Sinai's kind of the principle she stated of encouraging or if the board feels this way, directing staff to do everything it can do to ensure that when we're permitted to open at the elementary school level, that we have our ducks in a row and are able to do so. I think that's something that I've heard our previous board, I think, share as a principle, and if this board agrees, then maybe that's we're not taking action tonight, but that could be some direction that we give to staff that I think is consistent with your current approach. But it's essentially not, the way I think of it, is not taking our foot off the gas just because it seems likely that we're going to be remaining in the purple past our current target date for reopening schools. We appreciate all of the work of our union partners and all the work of you and your staff, Dr. Stevens, and want to keep it up so that we can take advantage of this time that we can't be in school, so that we're ready to go. Is that sort of general principle something that, well, first, I guess that you would be receptive to, Dr. Stevens, and one that my colleagues share?
Yes, on my part, it feels really consistent with the urgency that all staff are feeling right now.
Does anyone have any objection to that as direction to give our staff?
No, I completely agree with you, President Alper.
Okay. Director Miller?
Yeah, because just hearing Director Valsadeo's and Dr. Stevens' conversation about outdoor learning, I have a thought about it, because obviously I agree we cannot replicate every classroom outdoors at Berkeley High. That would literally leave you no place to walk anywhere. So, but I was thinking about certain specialized classes, because obviously there are some subjects that would probably are more in danger when they're indoors than being outdoors. I can think off the top of my head, specifically maybe like dance classes or art classes, or even some of the main primary subjects such as English or history compared to a math or science class. Has there been any thought about just moving certain subjects to outdoor learning environments and not all classrooms? Because I think that sort of thing can maybe help benefit, especially middle and high school planning.
Not to the extent that we've identified particular classes or experiences. We have, been soliciting folks who are interested in offering after school enrichment, sort of supplemental activities, and are really receptive to the idea that those would be offered outside. In fact, it was the outside nature of our athletics conditioning program that sort of made it as feasible to as sort of the sort of starting activity at the high school. So all of that is to say, no, we haven't identified specific classes. And yes, we want to continue to encourage the use of outdoor space as yet another risk mitigation strategy.
Great, thank you.
All right. Oh, Director Vasudev, you're muted.
Well, that would help, right? If I unmute myself. Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the question that Director Miller posed. For specific classes, has there been any thought about like PE classes, right? Physical education, because those might be easier to translate to an outdoor setting. And I think, what I heard at the town hall, particularly at the BHS town hall, both from the students and the parents, is this desire to congregate, right? And just to get together, but when it's safe, right? Obviously not now, but when it's safe to do so, if there's a way to prioritize maybe physical education classes, I think that would be a great idea.
Yes, there has been a thought about PE specifically, and that being part of the in-person learning experience. And that's true both of our thinking at the elementary, middle, and high school level.
Great.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Stevens, for that presentation, and to my board colleagues for all their thoughtful comments and questions. We will now move to the final public comment period. We've fixed, I think, the view. So I think everybody can see everybody now. So Vice President Brown, you can re-employ your signs. I see 7. If you'd like to speak in the extended public comment period, now is your opportunity. Looks like we have. I'll give people a minute to raise their hands. Okay, it looks like there's 10 people. Well, let's do a minute and a half again. Okay. I know you all can't see who you are, who's raised their hands, but we have 9 people have raised your hands. So those are the 9 people who I'm going to call. We'll start with Lay Levy, followed by Story Center Rob.
Hi, thank you, board. My name is Lay Levy. I'm a part of a group of parents that are very concerned. We've been concerned since July. We're over 500 members. It's busdparents.com. And we did have a rally because we feel that there has not been any urgency on the part of the board to open up our schools and to get our kids back on campus. I understand there's small cohorts. I do think that we are allowed to have even more small cohorts open under the purple tier. So why are we not exploring that? We love our teachers. We don't want this to be a teachers versus parents thing, but this is a public education crisis and our kids are suffering and our kids cannot wait. So what I do believe is, like Julie Sinai said, on January 7th, if we are in the red tier and we are able to, let's open up some small cohorts. Let's open up to the families that want to be there. Because I know that if a simple survey came out that just said, hey, who wants to go in for 5 days? And who wants to stay with distance learning, you'll get some really good answers, because Dr. Jean Noble, who is the lead on the COVID response at UCSF, says the protocols work and Marin schools are open. East Bay public schools, private schools are open. Our kids have to walk by private schools in session. That is unfair and not right. That is so inequitable. I can't even begin. I feel like I have deja vu when I hear Ty Alper saying, oh, we better be ready. We better be ready on that date. This is not acceptable. Thank you very much, board. I really appreciate it, but we've all been talking about the same thing since July. Thank you.
Thank you. Story Center Rob, followed by Shalene Stein. Story Center Rob, you need to, there you go.
So I'll just say, my script has changed. I'm making notes to all these meetings. I've been to every board meeting in town hall. It changes all the time as I hear things. So it's really hard. A minute and a half is not enough time. I just want to piggyback on what said before. I think it's time for the BUSD and the BFT to convene and ask for a parent advisory committee. It's like sitting on a 2-legged stool, and 1/3, we are the classroom right now. And we are not at this discussion. We are here to listen and comment in a minute and a half. I have so many things I'd like to say. I come to these meetings, I feel like I'm in a public health meeting rather than an educating meeting. I have heard nothing about learning and how we're changing our learning system. I hear about logistics. I hear about a dashboard that's not about learning. It is time for the BUSD and the BFT to get back to educating, which means you have to bring the parents into this discussion about how to deliver education in these unprecedented times. I've given up on this year. I give hope to fall 2021. Thank you.
Thank you. Shalene Stein. And anybody, I just should mention before Ms. Stein speaks, is anybody who, it is a short amount of time, you're always welcome to email the board. You can send an email to Board of Ed.
I emailed once before and it didn't, I got no reply.
Okay. I just want to let people know that that is an option. Shalene Stein.
Thank you. Despite the valiant effort of our teachers who have shouldered incredible expense out of their own pockets to supply our students with projects and supplies, virtual education continues to be but a mere shadow of in-person education, especially for our youngest learners. Your own presentations, Superintendent Stevens, have specified that the current distance learning model relies on parents to provide at least half of the state-mandated instruction time for young students. I struggle to understand how this hybrid model addresses this in any substantial way. It continues to center distance learning as the only model for information delivery for education and leaves the students without parents capable of leading home learning with enormous gaps in their education. As a family of 2 essential workers, I struggle to understand how you are suggesting we support our 5-year-olds learning. These models are pushing and will continue to push families out of our district and out of public education unless we create realistic models to return to in-person learning. We have models around the country of schools that have successfully reopened to in-person education. Why is it not possible to learn from and emulate these programs? Why does it feel like in these discussions, everything is so difficult, and we are reinventing the wheel? Thank you.
Thank you. The people who are left on the list to speak tonight are Susie Altman is next, then JD, Vicky, Ben Gerhardstein, Mimi Pulich, and Mark Airgood will be our last speaker. Susie Altman.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent Stevens. I want to echo Director Babbitt's concerns about the model that's been presented. It seems a little tone deaf that after all of the separate families have put in, a model would be suggesting that in the middle of the afternoon, parents drop their kids off at school. It also is I'd like to educate the board on is the one consistent social emotional program for a lot of Berkeley students has been the Berkeley City Camps. That's been the one reliable source that's affordable and also gives scholarships. Suddenly you're asking parents to make choices between programs that have been supporting their kids and putting them back in schools. We're simply flipping your model, which is less than ideal, 2 days a week for a couple of hours, but it again speaks to a tone deafness that you're not listening to families and don't really understand the needs of the parents and the children. I also want to make one following suggestion. Under the purple tier, schools that are open are allowed to remain open. And from my point of view, you have 3 schools in your district that are open. And even if it's purple, after the stay-at-home order, in my opinion, you have a real chance to at least open those 3 schools, and I wish you would consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Altman. JD, followed by Vicky.
Yeah.
Hello, hi, my name is Chad Wolf. I'm a parent of a first grader at Rosa Parks. So I don't know, I should have made better notes I'm a little disorganized, but I just want to say a few things. I think it's really unfortunate and ridiculous that preschools are open, camps are open, private schools are open, and parents like myself who rely on 2 incomes can't get a job and go to work because we were with our kid all day, and we need 2 incomes to make things work for our family. We have no options provided by the school. The current reopening plan, 2 hours a week, as Susie Altman mentioned, is really not even close to enough for families like ours. The tents experiment should have already been in place with ed camps already. I don't know why that isn't happening already. I mean, that should have been, this is stuff that should have been talked about like 6 months ago and should be in place already. And I don't even care if my kids are indoors at this point, as long as they're in a cohort. I mean, my younger son is in a preschool and he's been fine. They wash their hands. He doesn't even wear a mask and they're fine. They're with the same kids every day. And that doesn't even matter. Just get the schools open and let our kids really learn. And my one other thing is that I'm doing half of a teacher's job all day, every day, 5 days a week. Let me in the teachers union, please, and give me some medical benefits.
Thank you.
I'm a teacher.
Thank you very much. Vicky, followed by Ben Gerhardstein.
Hi, I wanted to thank the district's presentation for mentioning that they're doing one-on-one accommodations for teachers who have extenuating circumstances, and also the consideration of afternoon small group work for students who remain in distance. I think those are 2 points that are needed. I would like to encourage the district to continue thinking about opportunities of expanding phase 1. I don't think students necessarily have to be under a tent if they're doing PE or an art class. It's not necessary to create all of that infrastructure to sit outside on the grass and read. So there is some creative opportunities, but especially I think it's important at the middle school level to have opportunities for phase 1 groups. I have had providers who have offered to do special ed services with students who've received resistance from the district. Things like social distance bike riding with PT or APE providers. Also a willingness for IAs who would do small group tutoring on campus with groups of students. And while the district has said that we are allowed to have these types of phase 1 groups at the middle school, nothing has moved forward. So I would encourage the district to get started on doing some phase 1 targeted groups at the middle school level. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki. We have 3 more speakers. Ben Gerhardstein is next, followed by Mimi Pulich and Mark Ehrgood.
Good evening, board. Ben Gerhardstein. I'm a parent of a 1st grader and 3rd grader at Washington Elementary. I'm also a public health professional and somebody who thinks a lot about getting people around Berkeley safely. You know, I'm calling in tonight to support an urgent effort to reopen schools for young elementary school students within the Berkeley Public School District. I think that, you know, it's tragic really that we didn't reopen those schools in October when we had the chance. And our kids are suffering as a consequence. I'd like to urge the board to change the tone of your conversation to a degree and emphasize the fact that what we've learned from the many countries and cities about school reopening is that it is safe with community conditions being right. And I think, you know, the demand from the teachers union for a wonderful testing program for children, for the students, would be wonderful to have, but it might be unrealistic. And let's not let that delay our reopening efforts. Finally, I want to thank Laura for really, Director Babbitt for joining parents and pushing for schools to reopen, and also bring for Director Vasudeo and Babbitt pushing for us to consider those transportation challenges that students will have. I, for one, would be happy to help organize some bike trains to get kids to school.
Thanks so much.
And thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mimi Pulich, and then our last speaker will be Mark Ehrgood. Ms. Pulich.
Hi. More so than any other subject at Berkeley High, lost learning will be felt most acutely in math because its concepts build upon one another in a 3-year sequence. When all Berkeley students return to campus, this will impact all rising 8th grade and current Math 1 and 2 students. The MVP math curriculum introduces new concepts in every module, and in doing so presumes that students have mastered every previously introduced math concept taught in earlier modules or in middle school. This has tripped up students since it was adopted 6 years ago, but now it's a different and more serious problem because it's not possible to teach every module through distance learning. So when students return to campus every day, Math 1, 2, and 3 cannot be taught the same way it has been taught prior to the pandemic. It's not clear that anyone is thinking this far ahead. It would seem that there has never been a more critical juncture than the present for BUSD to prioritize Berkeley High's longstanding math issues and start making plans for 21-22. On top of how students have struggled in the past 6 years, lost learning compounds the challenges of learning and as well as teaching the math curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker will be Mark Ehrgood. Mr. Ehrgood.
This is Mark Ehrgood. Equal Opportunity Now, by any means necessary, Civil Rights Caucus in the Teachers Union. I agree with the call earlier to close phase 1 reopening. It endangers students and families. You can make up a lesson, but you can't make up a lost life, and that's what's being gambled on. Berkeley has a proud tradition of fighting for equality, for desegregation, for progress. And it really is an embarrassment to have equity being used and twisted to justify opening the economy and schools at the cost of lives, and calling for really daycare and forcing essential workers, mostly Black and Latino, back to work so the companies can make profits. We already know Black and Latino families are hit twice as hard. I call on teachers, don't go back. Defend your students and the families. Don't go. The administration cannot open schools without you. And to the vast majority of parents who are choosing to keep your children home, you are right. It is dangerous to send your child to school. Protect yourselves and your family. Distance learning may not be perfect, but it's by far the safest way to do education. You need to be talking about how to improve it and fund it, not going on for the entire evening on how to endanger the students' lives and the whole community.
Thank you, Mr. Irgood. And that concludes our extended public comment period. Thank you again. Congratulations again to our new colleagues. Director Babbitt, Director Vasudev, it's great to have you on the team. And happy holidays, everyone. And we'll see you in January. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.